to constitute to real estate.
Welcome back to Conan's Keys to Real Estate, unlocking Utah's real estate secrets, one key at a time. I'm your host, Ryan Conan, a full-time realtor at Real Broker, helping buyers and sellers in Twila and the Salt Lake Valley. One of the most common questions first-time buyers wrestle with is whether they should buy now or wait for the market to change. And this question feels even more intense when the market feels uncertain, prices feel high, or interest rates are higher than what people expected a few years ago. On the surface, waiting can feel like the safer decision. People tell themselves they will wait until prices come down, or until rates improve, or until things feel better. But the challenge with this mindset is that the real estate market does not move in predictable, clean cycles that align perfectly with individual timing. So what you end up with is a lot of people sitting on the sidelines, not because they are truly unprepared, but because they are waiting for conditions they cannot control. The first thing you need to understand is that there is no perfect time to buy a home. There is only your time. The market will always have ups and downs, but your personal situation is what actually determines whether buying now makes sense. Let's break this down in a more practical way. There are really three major factors that determine whether you should buy now or wait. Those are market conditions, financial readiness, and life stability. And the mistake most buyers make is focusing only on the first one. They look at interest rates, they look at home prices, they try to predict what will happen next, but they ignore whether they themselves are actually ready to own a home today. Let's start with market conditions. Yes, interest rates matter. Yes, prices matter. But what matters more is how those factors fit into your overall plan. A slightly higher interest rate today may feel uncomfortable, but it does not matter as much if you are buying a home you can comfortably afford and plan to stay in long term. On the other hand, waiting for rates to drop or prices to fall can sometimes backfire, because when conditions change, demand often increases and competition returns. That can push prices up or reduce negotiating power. So the idea that waiting automatically creates a better deal is not always accurate. Now let's talk about financial readiness, because this is where the real decision should usually be made. The most important question is not what the market is doing, but what your personal financial situation looks like. Can you comfortably afford the monthly payment? Do you have reserves after closing? Are your debts under control? Is your income stable? If the answer to those questions is yes, then you are in a position where buying now could make sense, even if the market does not feel perfect. If the answer is no, then waiting may actually be the right decision, but not because of the market, because of your personal readiness. This is a subtle but important shift. You are not waiting on the market, you are preparing yourself. Now let's talk about life stability, which is something people often underestimate. Buying a home is not just a financial decision, it is also a lifestyle decision. If you are planning to move jobs, relocate, or make major life changes in the next year or two, that needs to be part of the equation. Real estate works best when it is aligned with stability. The longer you plan to stay in a home, the more sense it usually makes to buy it, because you give yourself time to ride out market fluctuations and build equity over time. Now let's bring this into real-life scenarios, because this is where the decision becomes clearer. Imagine a buyer who is ready financially and stable in their life. They have steady income, manageable debt, and enough savings to buy comfortably, but they decide to wait because they think rates might drop in the future. 6 months or a year later, rates may or may not change, but home prices may have increased and competition may be higher. At that point, they are still trying to time the same decision, just in a different market. Now compare that to a buyer who decides to move forward when they are financially ready. They lock in a home, start building equity, and stabilize their housing costs. Even if rates are not perfect, they are now in a position where they benefit from long-term ownership. Neither scenario guarantees a perfect outcome, but one is based on control and readiness, and the other is based on prediction. And prediction is where most buyers struggle, because the reality is no one can consistently predict what the market will do next. Not buyers, not agents, not economists. The only thing you can control is your readiness and your decision. Another important factor is something called opportunity cost. When you wait, you are not just staying neutral. You are choosing to continue renting, continue paying someone else's mortgage, and delay building equity. That cost adds up over time, even if it does not feel obvious month to month. At the same time, Waiting can be useful if you are actively improving your financial position. Paying down debt, improving credit, or building savings can absolutely strengthen your future buying position. The key is that waiting should have a purpose, not just uncertainty. One of the best ways to remove confusion from this decision is to talk to a lender and a real estate professional early, even if you are not ready to buy immediately. A good loan officer can show you exactly what you qualify for today, what your payment would look like, and what needs to change if you want to improve your position. That turns guessing into clarity, and clarity is what removes a lot of emotional pressure from this decision. Because at the end of the day, most people are not actually asking whether they should buy or wait. What they are really asking is whether they will regret their decision later. And the truth is, regret usually does not come from timing the market incorrectly. It comes from making a decision without understanding your options or your readiness. So the goal is not to predict the perfect moment. The goal is to make a well-informed decision based on your current situation. My final thoughts. There is no perfect time to buy a home. There is only the right time for you. Market conditions will always change, but your financial readiness and life stability are what actually determine whether buying makes sense. Focus less on predicting the future and more on understanding your present. When you are financially prepared, stable, and informed, you are in a position to make a confident decision instead of a fearful one. The best time to buy is not when the market is perfect, it is when your life is ready. This is Conan's Keys to Real Estate Unlocking Utah's Real Estate Secrets, one key at a time.